right, guys, today we're going to take a look at a brand new pick set. It is a custom pick set made by a company called Coyote Mountain Trading Post. This one is their standard Skelepick kit. Sells for $90 US or $129 Australian because I got it from PickPals. I'll show you the card with the contact information later, and I'll also put it down in the description if you're interested in getting one of these things. 90 bucks. So let's take a look at this. I just took it out of the package. I have not even had time to really play with it very much, but my first impression when looking at this is, well, I know cases don't matter, but cases do give you your very first impression of a product. And so when I open up my $90 kit, I'll take the plastic off, and the first thing I see is kind of frayed sewing there. They missed the edge on that trim on the side there. Right away, it just kind of makes me start not feeling so good. But let's take a look. The case doesn't matter, right? We always probably take the picks and put them in another case. So let's keep looking at this. And this part does make a good impression, at least to me. I have never seen skull-headed picks. Very ornamental and clearly very unique. People are definitely going to pay attention when you pull picks out, and this is what you see. Very cool. I will read you a little bit from the website. These are custom picks. And so it says, the Coyote Mountain Trading Post standard Skelepick kit, $90 US, blah, blah, blah. Comes with 5 picks and a tension tool and a beautiful compact case for on the go. These picks are handmade and polished to a very high mirror finish. They do look cool. This one is clearly not a pick. He's kind of fallen out there. And he looks like a skeleton-headed handcuff key. Very cool. Let's pull the rest of these out of there and take a close look, see what we get for our 90 bucks. All right, guys, this is what we're looking at. All 7 pieces. We got 5 picks. We have a very cool-looking key here for handcuffs. I don't know why, guys, you keep asking for this. In all of my years, I've never wished I had one of these in the kit, but this one, if you got to have one, I guess this is the one to have. Very neat-looking. Pull that thing out. It's got a little loop on it to put onto your keychain, and that thing will always look after you in kind of a scary way. So we got one of those. We have a tensioner, and the tensioner, it's the wide one. And the finish, right away I'm starting to look at this guy, because if I recall, it said very high mirror finish on the description, and I mean, this is not oil, that's residue. And when I measured this, and I measured the blades on some of these guys, I believe they're all made out of stainless steel, which is a good material to make picks out of. They all measure about between 23 and 24 thousandths of an inch thick. And in terms of height, it's 0.158, which coincidentally is the same dimensions of the medium windshield wiper. It's a good material, very durable, and will never corrode on you. And being 23 or 24 thousandths of an inch thick, it's going to be pretty tough. It's going to be difficult to bend. Now, when I describe these, I'm going to have to guess a little bit about the profile names. I believe that Coyote Mountain Trading Post calls this one their short hook. So looking at the side of it, again, I don't see, I mean, that is not oil. That's how it came out of the package. I don't see that promised mirror finish on there. And in fact, up near the grip, you can see that they probably put it in the grip and then polished it. So you have a little bit of unpolished section there towards the end on both sides. Again, when I look, and I really hope the camera picks this out, when I look at the edge of this in here is not too bad, but up in here it's almost like it's not finished. It's very sharp, very rough. You can still see some grinder marks up inside of there. The back of it looks perfectly fine, and again, the tip is just a little bit, well, more than a little bit, but I can feel the ridges with the tip of my fingernail. So there you go. In terms of the handles, I'll cut one of these open in a minute, but I really like the way these handles feel. They are round or kind of oval shaped. They have some kind of soft rubber. I don't think it's shrink wrap, but it clearly works a lot like shrink wrap. It's not a hard plastic like shrink wrap. It's soft, and these are quite flexible. And beneath here is something that leaves little ridges through that plastic cover. Again, kind of neat. Let's give you something to hang on to. You don't really slide around when you're hanging on to it. The skulls are held on. It looks like maybe they were melted on. I'm not really sure. But I give them all a good tug. They don't fall off or anything. But again, I'm starting to look at that attention to detail, that quality control stuff. That for, when I'm paying almost $20 a pick, I wouldn't expect to see that level of rusticness, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They are a little bit rough. This one's a little better, but only because the shrink wrap or whatever that is goes down to cover up the unpolished version. If all of them had been done this way, I never would have noticed it, and it wouldn't bother me a bit. Again, I'm not seeing that. I don't. Again, I hope it shows up here, but that really doesn't look like a mirror finish to me. On the bottom, we have partially finished and partially not. And on this side, again, not quite like surgical instrument. Not what I would expect from a almost $20 custom pick. This one I think they call the long claw hook. I might have it reversed with that one, but I think you guys get the idea. Again, claw kind of melted on there. Doesn't fall off. On there pretty firmly. This next guy is Coyote Mountain's idea of a diamond, and it's perfectly fine. Looks almost like a bird's head, doesn't it? Again, we got a little bit unfinished there. It doesn't come down and shrink. We got some inconsistency between the picks, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We got that unfinished part showing. Got some uneven finish on the other side. And when we look at the head, this one's not too bad. You can still see it's... you've got to attach them somehow, and that's as good a way as any. And it's obviously functional. It's just appearance-wise. That's all. That's all I'm getting at. On this guy, Triple Peak. Now, this one does have a nicer finish than the others. When you look at the top, we can use, again, for a custom handmade pick, at this price point, I would have expected a little better finish along the edges and down in between the peaks. You can still see unfinished there, even though this one is got shrink wrap down along the shaft. It doesn't quite cover up the unfinished part. And on the bottom, where the ridges aren't too deep, I think the finish is a little better. But again, you can see some roughness down there. And the last one, they call this the KW1 Killer. It's the 5-peak. It's not quite as deep as a normal Bogota. Let me get a regular bogey up here to show you. So quite shallow. I don't know if it started out shallow and was sanded down, but much shallower troughs, shorter peaks. So you're not going to be able to get high cut pins as you would with a normal Bogota. But Kwikset rarely has that. So if this is targeting Kwikset, I suppose that would work just fine. On the bottom, it's kind of rough in terms of texture, unfinished. And again, not the mirror finish. It's got not a bad finish, but definitely not that, very high mirror finish promised when I read about this on the website. There's, again, the unpolished part. It doesn't, again, inconsistency. The shrink wrap doesn't come down to cover that up. And this is probably the nicest one of all of them in terms of attaching that head. I guess what I'm trying to say here is $90 to me is a lot of money. I only bought one of these things. I would have expected a little... It's almost like this kit missed a couple of steps in quality control. It just seems that whoever at Coyote Mountain was packing these things up, that's obvious to the most casual observer. Right away, I would have gotten rid of this. These only cost, a buck or two. I would have discarded this to prevent that initial bad impression of my customer. On these guys, again, I would have tried to get some level of consistency, not only on the finish, but also on the shrink wrap. If I polish these after I put the handles on, which I probably would not do, but if I did, I would make sure the shrink wrap extended down to the edge to cover up the unfinished part. I also would have made sure that in between those troughs, I had a much higher level of finish. If I promised you a very high mirror finish, I would deliver a very high mirror finish, and I don't see that here. So a couple of disappointments there. What do I like? I do kind of like the profiles. I do really like this. I like the claw. I think that would be a great raking tool, and you could also use it as a hook. I really like this diamond, very uniquely shaped, because you can use them as a diamond that way, or you could probably pull them over this way for very shallow single pin picking. The hooks, the rakes are not badly done. I do like the shapes, especially the rounded off portion of the top of the triple peak. When it's rounded, it'll go in and out a lot smoother, doesn't get snagged up. So I do like these profiles. So those are the positive things. I really like the little skull heads on the back of here. I think that is very unique and adds a lot of character to the picks. But when you take a look at them, some of these are with the skull pointed down, or pointing up, what I would consider to be the proper way. And then others, when you orient the pick properly, you got the skull pointing down. It's a matter of consistency. I think I would have made sure that they all face one way or the other. Anyway, guys, these are custom picks. They're not going to be identical to each other, because they're not being punched out by a machine. They're not all going to be identical. Everyone's going to be a little different. Everyone's going to have a slightly different level of finish. I understand that on custom picks. It's just that for this price point, I would have expected probably a little bit more attention to detail. That's what makes me believe these probably missed a step or two in the quality control before they left Coyote Mountain. I know there's a lot of demand for these. They were sold out when I first looked at them. They briefly came back in. I think they were sold out again. So there's a lot of demand for them. So maybe Coyote Mountain was rushing production and somehow or another these slipped through the crack. I've only got a sample size of one, and these are my observations. I probably would not buy this again if I knew that this was going to be the level of finish that I got. But that's just me. Anyway, guys, I appreciate your time. Stay safe, stay legal. If you would like to win this, there's a website. Go to that website, click on the purple button that says Weekend Giveaway, register, and with a little bit of luck, you'll be the lucky winner of this standard Skelepick kit. I said I was going to cut one of these open because I really want to see how they put those ridges in there. So let's do that now. Let's go ahead and cut this dude. I hate to ruin a pick, but this is all about learning about new products. So that's what we're going to do. So whoever wins this is going to have to put a new pick handle on this dude. All right, so it looks like we have some kind of cord. Come off of there. All right, so perhaps that is shrink wrap, but it's really soft, very rubbery. Gives you some texture on there. Beneath here, in order to give it that ridged look on the outside and to give you that traction, looks like they've put some kind of nylon cord on it. And let's look at the underlying material. If I can cut this without cutting my finger off. All right, this appears to be epoxied or glued on here somehow. So it's definitely not going to be falling apart. Let me do one more cut. Make sure I'm all the way through that. Okay, cut that bench, Bill. Yeah, this is definitely epoxied on here. You can see that. So definitely not going to be falling off. Yeah, these are just standard width. So they probably are made from windshield wiper inserts. That would be my guess. It's a good material. It is a good source of stainless steel, and I'm surprised more pick makers, particularly custom pick makers, aren't using it. Anyway, there you go. Standard length, standard width, all the way down through the shaft. This guy, see if I can get him off of there. I don't think it's that important, but we'll try it. See how he's put on there. Yeah, he's epoxied on there, guys. I'm not going to be able to get that off. These are definitely not going to be falling off. So there you go, guys. The standard Skelepick kit from Coyote Mountain Trading Post. Appreciate your time. Stay safe. Stay legal. If you like the idea of growing the lock sport community, please consider supporting the LockLab by either becoming a Patreon or clicking the join button below.